Hey, folks, today is Monday, October 8th, 2018. This is Roland Martin Unfiltered, broadcasting live from Los Angeles. On today's show, we'll talk about what's happening in Georgia. Here we are 29 days away from the election, and we're already seeing drama when it comes to irregularities at the poll. The challenger to Stacey Abrams for governor in Georgia, he's the Secretary of State. They have been removing folks from the voter rolls, and journalist Greg Palast has been on top of the case. He'll join us right here on the show. Also, drama in Texas as they also are messing around with the right to vote. Republicans, this is a part of their strategy, voter suppression. We'll break it down right here on the show. Also, Donald Trump, he wants to continue, or he wants stop and frisk to be national policy, even though we know it is a racist policy that was successfully repealed in New York City, and there was no increase in violence. Today, he talked to a police convention. No shock what he had to say about that as well. Also, Reverend Dr. William J. Barber is the winner of a MacArthur Genius Grant, $625,000 over the next 5 years. We'll talk with my frat brother about what he is going to do with the money and what is happening with the Poor People's Campaign and how they're mobilizing people all across this country to vote in the midterm elections. Also, in Georgia, a white police officer says she was shot by a black man. She flat out lied. Her police chief will join us live with the details on how she was exposed as a liar. Also, speaking of dodgy cops, the cop who shot and killed Tamir Rice, guess what? He's found another job at a police department in Ohio. Talk about a damn shame. He gets second, third, fourth chances if Tamir Rice is dead. Also, folks, Laura Ingraham of Fox News, she celebrated Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation to the Supreme Court with someone on her show. Let's just say things didn't go quite well with their selfie. Yeah, y'all gonna get a kick out of this as well. And also, last week, a lot of folks on my social media account were really upset with me posting a video of this Caribbean sister dancing. Well, I talked with sexologist Michelle Hope about that. And trust me, if you got a problem with it, She's got a few words for you as well. It's time to bring the funk. Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
Hey, folks, we're 29 days away from the midterm elections, and already Republicans are doing all they can to suppress your right to vote. We're seeing this in Texas, but also in Georgia. Well, the Secretary of State, Brian Kemp, he is running against Stacey Abrams to be the next governor of Georgia. Well, in 2017, they purged thousands upon thousands of people from the rolls. So although you're in Georgia and you might think that you're registered to vote, you might want to double check that. How do we know this? Well, Greg Palast, an investigative journalist who's been investigating voter suppression since 2014, he took them to court, or threatened to take them to court, to get the documents showing massive voter purging taking place in Georgia. He joins us right now on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Greg, how you doing?
Okay.
So,
Well,
Greg, give us a sense of how this debacle has been taking place. Republicans all across this country, they have been using voter suppression, all kinds of different schemes to remove folks from the polls. We have, of course, an outfit out of Virginia threatening a lot of these small towns in Mississippi, taking them to court, purging voter rolls. We've seen it what happened in Florida with Governor Rick Scott. But in Georgia, the Secretary of State, Brian Kemp, he has been doing this. You busted him, correct?
That's correct. I started actually Rolling Stone investigation of this character, Brian Kemp, in 2014. So it's not like I went after him because he's running against Stacey Abrams for governor. He's been playing this kind of racist purge game for years now. So Rolling Stone, we first busted him in 14 and 16. I've continued on. I filed a lawsuit with the Reverend Jesse Jackson to saying, or we were about to file a lawsuit. We gave him a 90-day notice saying, cough up the names of the people you have purged from the voter rolls and why you purged them, or we'll haul your behind into a federal court. Hours before the deadline of 90 days, which is required by law, he gave us the entire list of those who've been purged. If you are a Georgian or know anyone in Georgia, tell them to go right now to gregpalast.com. That's GREGPALAST, gregpalast.com. And you can check if you've been purged. And guess how many? It's 591,000 voters, over 500,000 voters purged in the year 2017, just last year. No one was sent a notice that they were purged. No one was sent a notice. 1 in 10 Georgia voters. So if you think, well, I can vote, it's an important race between Stacey Abrams and this guy, Brian Kemp. I'm not telling you how to vote. I'm just telling you, if you expect to vote, you better check. If you're on the voter rolls, 100,000 people have checked today, and thousands and thousands have had to re-register. Here's the problem, Roland. He stalled. We just put this thing out, and you've only got till tomorrow, Tuesday, today and tomorrow, to re-register to vote if you have been purged.
And Greg, look, I mean, not only has he doing this, this is the key. A lot of people don't understand that it is the Secretary of State that really determines what happens with the vote. We also know that in the last election, Brian Kemp destroyed the hard drives of folks who voted, so they could not actually go back and double check to see what the impact was. I mean, this is a guy who was playing games with the voting rolls and the votes there in Georgia.
Oh, all kinds of games. And I want to tell you, one of the games that he was playing is called Crosscheck. There's a guy named Chris Kobach. He's the Secretary of State of Kansas. He's a white supremacist, and I don't use that phrase very often. In fact, I don't think I've ever described any other official as a white supremacist, but he is. He's counsel also for an organization that claims that its work is to maintain a European America. Well, what does that mean? I think we know what it means. And one way they're doing this is that this guy, Chris Kobach, has created a list called the Interstate Crosscheck List. He gave 500,000 names to Brian Kemp. We have 108,000 of those names that Chris Kobach told Kemp to remove on the grounds that these are voters who left the state of Georgia. We have had experts go over every single name on that list. Of the 108,000 names of people that supposedly left Georgia, 106,000 are still in Georgia right at the voting address where they were registered. And yet they're losing their vote. They have no notice. And if they show up to vote at the polling stations, for example, there are 357 gentlemen named James Brown. Now, why did they put them down on the cross-check list? Because believe it or not, Roland, they found a James Brown living in Detroit, in Motown, and a James Brown in Virginia, and a James Brown in Arizona, etc. They found hundreds of James Browns, and they're saying it's basically the same guy, even though they're pairing up the James Browns of Georgia with James Browns, like, for example, James Edward Brown is supposed to be the same voter as James Thomas Brown. I can't make this up. James Brown Jr. and James Brown Sr. are supposed to be the same voter. If your name is Jackson or Brown or Rodriguez or Garcia or Kim, look out, because there's a very good chance you're on this purge list. If you failed to vote and decided not to vote in 2014 and 16, you're almost certainly on this list. You have a right to vote, but they've purged you anyway. They're only supposed to purge you if you lose.
Greg, for instance, there's a famous fisherman named Roland Martin. I also have my Google alert set to that. And then there are several other Roland Martins that have popped up over the last, couple of weeks. And so what these guys are saying is that, so we got a Roland Martin who's registered in Texas. Then there's a Roland Martin who might be in Wisconsin or in Florida. They're saying, that's the same person. Take the name off the list.
Yeah, because what they're saying is either you're voting twice, which is a crime, or you just moved. So you moved to Texas to go fishing or whatever you're doing, right? So, it's evil and it's racist, because when you use common names, just so you know, 85 of the 100 most common names in America are minority names, like Garcia, Rodriguez, Martin, and Jackson. Let me tell you, they have the whole Jackson 5. In fact, 5,000 voters in Georgia are named Jackson that are on this hit list. So please go to gregpalast.com, GREGPALAST. That's myname.com. We put it up there because it was technically the easiest. Put in your first name, your last name, your zip code. You'll get back your street address. If that's your current address or a former address, I'm telling you, you got to re-register right now. We'll have a link there. Secretary of State's office, Brian Kemp, sos.ga.gov is where you go to re-register. And you have 2 days to do it. I'm sorry, that's all they gave us. We still may sue him, by the way, to get everyone's name back on.
All right, Greg Palast, we certainly appreciate your hard work, and we'll keep pushing this story out to our followers as well. Thanks a lot.
You're very welcome.
All right, folks, as you heard Greg just say, Georgia, tomorrow is the deadline, October 9th. Texas is also the deadline to register to vote. Here are the other states where the deadline is tomorrow. And so if you're living in these places, I want you to understand, if you're not registered to vote, this is the list: Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Michigan, Mississippi, New Mexico, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Texas. Let me repeat that: Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Michigan, Mississippi, New Mexico, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Texas. Those are the states where October 9th, tomorrow, Tuesday, is the deadline to register. Your voter registration form must be stamped by the date in order for it to be official. And so if you're unsure, fill the voter registration form out again. There's nothing that says if you already registered, you can't fill that form out. You can still do so. We want to make sure everybody is registered. If you live in another state, I want you to text, email, call your relatives, double check, and especially the millennials, folks who are Gen X, who are Gen Y, who are Gen Z, millennials as well. Make sure that they are registered to vote, because if you're not, forget about it in those states after tomorrow. Now, former First Lady Michelle Obama, she is doing all she can to also get folks registered to vote. Here's a PSA that they're distributing to encourage folks to do their duty and use the power at the ballot box.
Why should I vote? Nothing ever changes. The system is rigged. Why bother? Whether you're trying to get dinner on the table after working a double shift, dropping baby off with grandma, or studying for exams, voting can feel like the furthest thing from your mind. You might even feel like it's just not worth it. But that's exactly what some people want you to think. The truth is, when we stay home, things stay the same or they get worse. But when we all vote, we get new ideas and new energy. We get leaders who share our values and listen to our voices. That's how we change America. And that's why it's so important to register right now and vote this November. And in every election, go to whenweallvote.org or text We All Vote to 97779 to get started, and know that your vote will make a difference. Be sure to get registered and get to the polls on November 6th.
All right, folks, one of the reasons I'm here in Los Angeles, because I'm participating in an effort, interviewing a variety of people to encourage folks to go out and vote. I just finished interviewing Erica Ash. I'll be talking to comedian Ali Sadiq, also talking to Chuck D as well, and several others about the importance of voting. And so I look forward to bringing you those interviews right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Right now, I want to bring in our panel. We have, of course, Eugene Craig, CEO of the Eugene Craig Organization, Avis Jones-DeWeaver, leadership strategist, as well as Michael Brown. Of course, Michael, he is a former Finance Committee member of the DNC as well. So, folks, let's get right to it. Eugene, I'm going to start with you. I have long said that one of the reasons black people will not vote for Republicans is because as long as Republicans are playing the game of voter suppression and they are messing with folks' right to vote, black folks will have none of it.
I agree 100% with you. You know, it's a racist tactic. You know, there's no place in our civil society for voter suppression. The right to vote is sacred. And, you know, Republicans, look, you know, compete for the vote. Don't try to steal an election by keeping people from voting.
And again, we're hearing these fishy reasons, Avis, in terms of this idea, in terms of, well, if you haven't voted, okay, the cross-check your name. I mean, Chris Kobach, he got blasted in court over the summer, where he tried to somehow suggest that that this federal judge was killing him, and showed how ridiculous they are in what they're doing. But again, what Republicans want to do, and we've seen this in Georgia, we've seen it in Texas, we've seen it in so many other states, they want to frustrate people, but they just say, you know what, I give up, I'm not going to vote.
Absolutely. I mean, they understand that they are losing the demographic battle. As I speak with you today, the majority of babies born in America are babies of color. And so, as Eugene alluded to, instead of fighting in the sphere of ideas and seeking to earn people's vote, they're looking to tilt the game. They're looking to jerry-rig the game in their favor by stealing people's vote. It is a specific strategy that they have pursued for years, and it's something that I believe they're going to continue to pursue as long as they can get away with it.
Michael.
Well, you know what, Roland, it's interesting that here's what the GOP does, and frankly, they do it very well. They're more interested in winning than the consequences, because they'd rather win and then worry about the consequences and the fallout later. And I think we saw a lot of that, what happened with the Judge Kavanaugh debacle, is Senator McConnell was like, I don't care what happens. Frankly, I don't even care if we lose the House and the Senate, as long as we get our guy on the court. And Roland, I don't know if you remember back when my father was chair of the Democratic Party, he used to say, I want to win, I don't want to make a point. And that's what the GOP does. They worry about winning. They're not trying to make people feel good. They don't care about demographics. They don't care about a big tent. What they care about is winning by any means necessary.
And of course, when we talk about them wanting to win, whether you talk about cross-check, whether you're talking about how the lengths they go to a voter ID, Again, I mentioned this conservative outfit out of Virginia, where they have been targeting these small towns in Mississippi and Alabama, largely African American, threatening them, saying, if you don't do this, we're going to take you to court. These small towns cannot afford those legal fees, and several of them have been actually purging the rolls. These are the tactics that they're using in order to intimidate black people and brown people from voting.
Absolutely, and it's horrible. I really wish there was somebody on the other side that could come to the defense of a lot of these small towns. Because the trickle adds up to a river, and what you end up seeing is a river of votes being taken away, being stolen, fraudulently and illegally. As the gentleman, the guest before, he said, look, they're taking common names, they're taking very common names and quote unquote matching them, and trying to make a case that the person is double registered when look, people have common names. I mean, there's only so many names that can go around for a 400 million person populace. But what Republicans are doing and what a lot of these conservative groups are doing is absolutely wrong. It's a travesty and it's an atrocity. And if I'm a Democrat, today I probably today 90 days leading up to the election, as you get a hold of these purge rolls, I'm probably diverting most of my resources to calling these people and getting them registered, particularly in the day and age where look, we can register people online.
You said it was a travesty. Well, that pretty much is what took place today in Chicago, where Donald Trump was speaking to a police convention where he basically called for stop and frisk to become national policy.
Well, we've seen that policy.
Actually, hold tight 1 second, Michael. I think we have audio. Go ahead.
And I have directed the Attorney General's office to immediately go to the great city of Chicago to help straighten out the terrible shooting wave. Want to straighten it out fast. There's no reason for what's going on there. I've told them to work with local authorities to try to change the terrible deal the city of Chicago entered into with ACLU, which ties law enforcement's hands, and to strongly consider stop and frisk. It works, and it was meant for problems like Chicago. It was meant for it. Stop and frisk. And Rudy Giuliani, when he was mayor of New York City, had a very strong program of stop and frisk, and it went from an unacceptably dangerous city to one of the safest cities in the country, and I think the safest big city in the country. So it works. Got to be properly applied, but stop and frisk works. The crime spree is a terrible blight on that city, and we'll do everything possible to get it done. I know the law enforcement people in Chicago, and I know how good they are. They could solve the problem if they were simply allowed to do their job and do their job properly, and that's what they want to do. So, Chicago, we're going to start working with you as of today.
Okay, folks, Donald Trump just lied in that particular speech. Facts are stop and frisk in New York was deemed to be racist. 96% of the people who were stopped in stop and frisk were never even charged with a crime. Guess what? The police and all the people who were shouting, oh my God, this is somehow going to cause a dramatic rise in crime, flat out lied. There was no increase in crime in New York by getting rid of stop and frisk. Michael, this is a president who is advocating a racist policy. They're not stopping and frisking white folks on Wall Street to see if they're carrying cocaine or other drugs. What they're doing is they're stopping and frisking black and brown people. This is Donald Trump advocating on behalf of what is an undeniable racist policy. The same thing Mike Bloomberg did, and then he was all a big boogeyman. And a year after stop and frisk ended, they had no evidence that it increased crime.
You use that word that it's not debatable about this particular policy. Everybody knows it's about getting black and brown folks in the criminal justice system. You're right. They're not on Wall Street. They're on Central Park West. The problem that you'll hear a lot of folks talking about, though, Roland, and I know you hear it all over the country, is then people say, how did this guy even get elected? You know how he got elected? Because a lot of people said, you know what, I don't like Hillary. For whatever reason, they didn't like her, and they stayed at home. When you stayed at home, that was a vote for Donald Trump. So now I hope people understand that elections have consequences. You can't just sit at home, hope for the best. You need to get out. If there's a line, stand in it. If it's raining, get an umbrella. If your kid needs a babysitter, find one. Either way, you need to vote in November.
Avis, again, to stand in front of police, this is a president who's afraid to come talk to the NAACP, afraid to come to the National Urban League, afraid to go to the National Action Network, afraid to come before the NAACP Legal Defense Fund or the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. He has yet to sit down with civil rights organizations as a group. He is advocating an absolutely racist policy that simply isn't true. And what he's doing is he's letting these Chicago cops off the hook who are still mad that Jason Van Dyke was prosecuted in the killing of Laquan McDonald. They have purposely slowed down police activity there because they basically want to say to the city, if you dare hold any one of us accountable, we're going to shut this whole thing down and let mayhem just happen all over the streets of Chicago.
Absolutely. And we know that was the same tactic that Baltimore police used as well after the murder of Freddie Gray. But here's the larger point I want to make here. Not only is that policy racist, it was also found to be unconstitutional. And this is supposed to be someone who is supposed to be protecting, defending sort of the stalwart of the Constitution. Instead, he is who he always is. He's a liar, he's a thug, he's a rogue, okay? This is absolutely wrong. As you mentioned, getting rid of it did not lead to a spike in crime. And I just want to echo the point that was just made. The reality is that this was completely predictable. He campaigned on a platform of law and order. And as African Americans in our history in this country, we know exactly what that appeals to. We know exactly what that's referring to. That's referring to using very violent actions against our community in particular through the guise of increased police presence and force and power. And now he is about to implement his campaign promise as it relates to that. And finally, I would just say that I agree. Unfortunately, when we don't show up as we should at the polls and instead fall for these okey-doke tactics of these protest votes or voting for people who don't have a chance in hell of winning, is really what I wanted to say, this is what we end up with. And so we need to definitely make sure that we can learn from this mistake and make sure that we do not replicate it in the future.
Eugene.
Man, look, this guy is trash. And every single day he reminds us that he is trash. With trash policies, with trash people around him. I think it's interesting that, he would, let's take a step back. This is the same guy who a year ago around this time stood in front of the NYPD and said, hey, I hate that you guys, take care when you're putting people in cars when you arrest them. Why don't you just, go ahead and let their head hit against the car door, the ceiling of the car. This is the same guy, he brings up Rudy Giuliani. It's the same guy that flirted with Rudy while he's in drag. This is the same guy. He's told us it's the same guy who boosts, folk like Dan Bongino and Sheriff Clark. We know, he's trash. We know his policies are trash. The thing is this. We're going to talk about, pivot this to voting. November is 29 days away. Election day is 29 days away. On that ballot, you're going to have federal races, but you're also going to have state races. You're going to have a lot of seats on the ballot, a lot of offices on the ballot that's going to determine who your county sheriff is, who your county state attorney is and DA is, who's going to hire the chief of police that's going to set policies for the police department. If I'm in Chicago or any other major city, that's a major issue for me. Baltimore 2020, Mayor Pugh's going to have to deal with, the situation of the Baltimore police, I heard, essentially, going Conor McGregor on people. Stop and frisk is a failed policy. It's an unconstitutional policy. And we experienced arrest on site with Martin O'Malley in Baltimore, 10, 15 years ago. But November 2018, one of the defining issue needs to be who's going to hire a police chief, what the policies are going to be, and give a middle finger to the president's trash policies with the trash people that he surrounds himself with.
going to move on to the next story. I'm going to ask my next guest actually about stop and frisk, but also about this story here. And that is Sherry Hall. She was a police officer, folks, with the Jackson Police Department in Jackson, Georgia. Last week, she was sent to prison for 15 years. No, not because of police brutality, not because of drugs, anything along those lines. It is because she lied about a black man shooting her while she was on duty. Now, we talked a lot on this show about police officers who lie in reports and who lie to supervisors. Well, she made this story up, and she told local station CBS 46 the day after this quote unquote attack.
Just out patrolling the area and encountered I don't want to say suspicious guy, but just a guy kind of in the woodlines. And he had the presentation of somebody that might need medical attention or might have been under the influence of a substance. And I began talking to him, trying to get him to come to me and or to step out to me. And during that time, we had a little bit of a confrontation, and he fired a shot, and then I began to return fire and take cover.
Were any words exchanged? Did he say anything to you? Or?
There was some words, but I don't recall all the words that were exchanged, and then a lot of them were incoherent. You couldn't understand exactly what he was saying.
And
I don't think he even knew what he was saying.
You were just trying to make sense of it all at that point. And what, all of a sudden he goes to his waistband and...
No, it was very fast. It all happened fast. He was sitting down and come up to a standing up position. And at the time that he was coming up from a standing up position, that is when I believe he drew the weapon.
When he fires, do you immediately feel the impact, or what is your adrenaline allowing you to kind of...
I felt the impact. As soon as it hit, it knocked every bit of breath out of me. And an overwhelming burning sensation. And it actually dropped me to my knees. And but I know I had to get back up. I couldn't lay there. I had to get up.
Did you initially think that you were hit, or?
Yes. I mean, I knew something. You don't feel that type of pain and impact and every bit of breath go out of you if nothing hit.
Y'all, her ass was lying the whole damn time. Talk about making up a completely bullshit story out of thin air. It took investigators about 10 days to figure out her ass was lying. They hit her with 11 counts of providing false statements, violating her oath of office, tampering with evidence. Again, she's headed to prison for 15 years. Joining us right now is the police chief of Jackson, Georgia, James Morgan. Chief Morgan, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Chief, it has to offend you as a black man, as a police chief, to have this officer just lie, make up a story saying some black man did all these things to her when it is completely fabricated. Does she got a mental problem? Is she a racist? What's the deal?
Oh, definitely racist.
Well, looking back over it, she was hired as a police officer, and to confess, she did to that they didn't experience any type of racial overtones or any type racial problem with Sherry Hall at all. Why she made that statement, made the story up, that's still yet not totally clear to me. But as far as the racial relationship that she had with the community, she had a very good relationship with the community.
And so, as this thing began to unravel, when you were first told, Chief, she's lying, this didn't happen, what was your initial reaction?
Well, my past experience detailed the fact that the story that she had given first was some flaws in the evidence that appeared at the scene. And After the Georgia Bureau of Investigation was called to investigate the incident, what I told them exactly what they did. Did I want to believe her at first? Yes, I did. Was I angry? Yes, because to me, initially that was an attack on a police officer. But after looking over the scene and other evidence that was displayed, then it was apparent that her story was just not adding up.
So she's going to prison 15 years. Chief, do you believe, because I've long said this here, that if an officer is busted for lying to authorities, lying to their fellow officers on a police report, I believe they should be fired, because I could be prosecuted for making a false statement. I just think it has to be that sort of tough signal to tell any cop, you lie on a police report, you lie in an investigation, you lose your job.
Well, looking at it from my lens, it is completely maybe different from the general public. The way I see it is we are held to a higher standards as law enforcement officers. So we're not supposed to lie. It's just that simple. Fabricate statements. So when these things happen, it is up to us as supervisors or police chiefs, sheriffs, or whomever to determine the proper protocol to go by in getting these people to come forth and tell the truth. So in this instance here, looking back over it, I'm not really angry, more disappointed than angry with the officer. Because again, as I mentioned earlier, she was a complete good officer, did an outstanding job. But looking at the incident itself, and that was a conscious choice that she made. And once that choice was made,
looks like we're having some issues here with the Chief's FaceTime there. And so, Chief Morgan, I certainly appreciate you joining us. And so sorry, I wish we could have had a good connection there. But again, thank you so very much for joining us. And glad to see you and your officers doing the right thing. And again, this officer going to prison for the next 15 years. Speaking of cops who do wrong, the Cleveland cop who shot and killed Tamir Rice, guess what? Has a new job as a police officer. Timothy Loman was hired in Bel Air, Ohio, okay? And the police chief there, Richard Flanagan, said that Loman deserved a second chance as a part-time officer. This is the guy who was fired by the Cleveland Police Department for reasons not related to Tamir Rice's death. He was deemed unfit for duty, dismissed for giving false information on his job application. Now, not only this here, Loman, now here's the piece. Loman was forced to resign from another police department in Independence, Ohio, because he was deemed unfit to be a police officer. I want to go to my panel here. Damn, Eugene. He's unfit in one police department. He goes to a second police department, shoots and kills Tamir Rice, deemed unfit to be a cop, and he gets hired at a third police department. This is why I believe, again, because first of all, people don't realize police officers have to have their peace license.
Yes.
This is where the license to be a cop should be revoked.
Yep.
So you don't have some police chief in some small town going, hey, let me give him a second or third or fourth or fifth chance. No, there should be an independent body that reviews cops like this. They should be able to snatch their license, just like law licenses are snatched, just like cosmetology licenses are snatched.
Yep.
I don't care what it is. That should be the case when it comes to these cops. It is a shame that this man has gotten a job as a cop.
Yeah, I agree with you 110%. I think there are a couple solutions here that need to need some serious looking at. The first is there should be a board, there should be a system, there should be a national database that keeps track of every single officer, of every single test, every single license, and
That's
every
right.
single infraction that they have been involved in and with. The second part of that is that when you have officers that commit perjury, that falsify reports, that mess with evidence, that collude to cover up things, there needs to be a mandatory minimum attached to those crimes. You know, that's the message that needs to be sent. I mean, it should be a federal mandatory minimum. There should be a felony. You know, if we entrust you to protect our rights, protect our persons, protect our property, and you violate that and violate our rights, you should lose your rights. And you know, and so that's I think we have to look at some solutions. We absolutely do. I mean, this is the abuse has to stop.
Absolutely.
You know, Avis, again, I mean, I look at these excuses that are being offered by, he deserves a second chance. This man was barely out of the vehicle, not even 5 seconds before he was firing at Tamir Rice.
Absolutely.
This cop, this Timothy Loman has no business ever with a badge and a gun. Go get you a job at a convenience store. Go pump gas somewhere. But this man should not be trusted with a badge or a gun.
Absolutely. White male privilege is a hell of a drug. Listen, what happened before, as you mentioned, before he even was hired in Cleveland, in terms of what happened with Tamir, was the reason why he was fired from his previous job specifically had to do with his irresponsible handling of his firearm. And so he was already documented danger before he was hired in that case. And as you mentioned, I mean, as I remember that video, and I remember that video like it was yesterday, because we've had so many tragedies that have happened. But that particular tragedy sticks out in my mind because my youngest son was 12 when Tamir was murdered. And we know that Tamir was murdered when he was 12. And so I'm sitting there watching this video, watching what was clearly a child playing in the park. And Tamir, in my estimation, in terms of just looking at the video, was the victim of a drive-by shooting, okay? Tamir was killed before that car came to a complete stop. All right? This man is irresponsible. He is, in fact, a murderer. And if they didn't have the guts to do what needed to be done in the wake of Tamir's death, it is especially beyond disappointing. I would argue that it is sort of angering that you have this other police department that is willing to let this danger to the public back on the public's payroll. Just to think about it, taxes. People's tax dollars are paying for a murderer to go out there and have a third chance to kill again.
You know what, Michael? I would hope the citizens of Bel Air, Ohio, rise up and go to their city council and say, tell this chief to send him packing. We don't want this man who has been deemed twice unfit to serve being even a part-time cop in our city.
Well, Chief Flanagan should be ashamed of himself. I mean, that's just silly season there. But I want to go back to your previous guest and the chief of police, and I forgot his name. I remember Chief Flanagan.
Chief Morgan.
Chief Morgan. I have a couple questions. One, who shot her is A, because he never really said what happened.
Yeah.
And two, since she clearly has these kind of views about people of color, were all of her cases reopened? Maybe I'm over-lawyering it, but it seems to me that she has a tendency to not care about people of color. So what happened to all those cases in her history? Are they reopening them? Is the DA looking at them again? And maybe you have some people that are innocent that were found guilty by crimes that she perpetrated on them. So it'd be interesting to find that out. Again, I don't know if Chief Morgan has looked into that. I know you were having some technical difficulties, but I was just curious about it. Again, A, was she shot? Who shot her? And B, were her cases reopened?
All right, folks, hold tight 1 second. Going to a break right now. When we come back, we'll chat with Reverend Dr. William Barber, the latest winner of a MacArthur Genius Grant. He's an alpha man. Of course, he's a genius. We'll talk to him next, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
America is as much our country as it is yours. Abolitionist David Walker.
All right, folks, HBCU Giving Day. Our school for today is Benedict College. It is, of course, www.benedict.edu. Of course, they are one of our HBCUs, and it's important for us to support our HBCUs, but not only when it comes to giving. We also hope that you, if a graduate of Benedict College, would also send checks back as well to support your university. And so we want you, whether it's $1, $5, $10, 20, 30, 50, 100, doesn't matter. Every dollar counts when it comes to keeping our young folks in college. So please support Benedict College, benedict.edu. Somebody who can spare a couple dollars to give these days, Reverend William J. Barber. Last week, folks, he was announced as one of the winners of the MacArthur Genius Grant. It is an award which comes with $625,000 over the next 5 years. He, of course, longtime state chair, leader of the NAACP, still a member of the national board of the NAACP, also one of the conveners with repairs of the breach. They have been very much involved in the Poor People's Campaign, picking up where Dr. King left off in the SCLC in 1968. He joins us via phone from Kansas. First off, Doc, congratulations.
Thank you, Roland. Thank you. You know, that was a shock, man. When they first called me, I thought it was a prank joke. And I said, what in the world? Then they told me it was for real. They've been watching me for a while. It was anonymous. They couldn't say who nominated whoever. I started just crying, man, like a little baby, thinking about all the years of work. But I'm humbled, man, and thankful.
And of course, you are out there doing the work in terms with the Poor People's Campaign. And so got to ask, it takes money and dollars to do these things. Are you also still pastoring your church there in North Carolina? Simple question. What you going to do with the money?
Well, you know what I'm going to do with it is keep doing this work. It's funny about this grant. This grant says they give the money to you, not for what you've done in the past, but what they expect you to do in the future. They expect you to continue to work, you know, working in the poor communities and what we're doing. A lot of times we have to go where people cannot even afford us to come. So our plans are to take a look at how do we use it once things start happening in January to further this work. You know, I was in police custody when they announced it. In Chicago, standing with low-wage workers and janitors and McDonald's workers. I'm here today in Kansas the day after Trump left. We're having thousands of people out tonight for Poor People's Campaign National Call for Moral Revival hearing, where poor and impacted people impacted by systemic racism, poverty, ecological devastation, a war economy are testifying. And the reason they're doing it is the politicians can't talk tonight. They've been invited to come listen. And we're registering people for the movement who vote. Because I think one of the things, Roland, that you not only need a villain to vote, you need a vision to vote. And I'm saying the Democrats, we should just tell folks, you know, be against Trump. Be against Trump because you are for. And if you take out your anger on Trump, on these state legislators and these Congress people, because you are for, because you can bet your bottom dollar, extremists have an agenda. When they run, they know exactly what they want and what they're intending to do, and we've got to take them on, you know, on that term. So that's what we're doing here tonight, Kansas, and we'll be in Missouri the day after, and we just continue to move across the country.
Reverend, I got to ask you a little bit earlier. We were talking about what Republicans are doing across this country with voter suppression. We're seeing Greg Palast in this investigation discovered 591,000 people, names purged from the voting rolls there. Texas drama there as well. Of course, you have seen this thing up close and personal with some of the most evil people in the country. That is the North Carolina Republican Party. And I keep saying that this is flat out, I don't care what anybody says, this is affirmed policy of the Republican National Committee.
It is. I mean, and clearly, and it started in 2010, which also coincided with the time that the Chamber of Commerce decided that they wanted to take a look at how they could take over the Supreme Court. And they knew that in order to get that, they had to suppress the vote so that they could get control of state capitals, so the state capitals could gerrymander the districts, particularly in Congress, and therefore they could, you know, gain control of the Congress. And also by suppressing the vote in these bad cities, they work to control the Senate, particularly in the South. And as you know, Trump lost by 3 million popular votes. He won by 80,000 votes in 3 states. One of those states was in Wisconsin. He won by 30,000 or so votes. 250,000 black votes were suppressed. We had 698 fewer voting sites in black and brown communities in the 2016 election. So we have to have a massive turnout, and we have to have a massive turnout and a focus on this voter suppression and break the back of it. One of the things people miss, when Lindsey Graham went off, how his support for Kavanaugh, it did not come out, Roland, that Kavanaugh voted to uphold the racist photo ID in South Carolina that Lindsey Graham supported. That never came out. And so, when he was going off, he actually was going off saying he was for Kavanaugh because Kavanaugh did the very thing he wanted done in Michigan State. We can overwhelm this system, though. If we get somebody said 12 or 14% higher than the last mid-year, we can do this. So everybody, I heard you just say, has to turn out and stay there. And not just turn out the voters, we have to turn out everybody. I was at a rally last night, Roland, and we were talking about how over 2 million people in North Carolina who were registered to vote last time didn't vote, and 500,000 of those were African Americans. We cannot afford to do that when you know people are doing everything they can to suppress your vote. One last thing, Roland. Right now we hear, you heard today McConnell say mob rule and Lindsey Graham mob rule. Do you know that when the judge overruled George Wallace, when he was blocking the marches from Selma to Montgomery, George Wallace said to that Southern judge, you have now joined in supporting mob rule. Mob rule is a direct quote of racist segregation from the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. And Democrats better call it out and call it what it is.
All right, then. Reverend William J. Barber, we certainly appreciate it. Hey, Poor People's Campaign website?
Yeah, Poor People's Campaign. If you go to poorpeoplescampaign.org, you can go there, or go to www.breachrepairers.org and click on the Poor People's Campaign site, and it will take you right there.
All right, Reverend Barber, always appreciate you being a supporter of Roland Martin Unfiltered. Thanks for coming on.
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks a bunch. All right, folks, he mentioned Brett Kavanaugh. Of course, some conservatives were just so elated with him winning because now they have a rock-solid 5 votes on the U.S. Supreme Court. And Brett Kavanaugh, despite him writing this editorial calling himself an independent, no, you're not. He's a right-winger. So on Fox News, Laura Ingram's show, they were celebrating. And so Laura had a contributor on, and they decided to take a selfie live on air to celebrate this. And this happened.
You take that one, it's open. And I'll take a quick selfie. You ready?
All right, ready?
Okay. Okay.
Right.
Smile. Do we have it? Wait, the angle.
Go to the edge.
Wait, the angle.
Go to the edge. Oh. The ACLU used to care about the rights of accused, but with Kavanaugh, well, they spent $1 million.
Okay. You know what? Henry, run that back.
You take that one, it's open. And I'll take a quick selfie. You ready?
All right, ready?
Okay. Okay. Right. Smile. Do we have it? Wait, the angle.
Go to the edge.
Wait, the angle.
Go to the edge. Oh. The ACLU used to care about the rights of accused, but with Kavanaugh, well, they spent $1 million.
And Amy, Laura trying to say, oh, that was a gag. No, he bust his ass.
He did. You could hear the thunk when he hit the floor. And she just kept going like, I don't care what the heck happened to him.
Oh, hell, like, oh.
It was hilarious. There is a God.
See what happened?
Somewhere.
See what happened?
God
See what happened with evil? Too funny, too funny. All right, folks, speaking of funny, so last week, first of all, we had a conversation on Friday with our panel because we had a whole bunch of holy rollers, all kind of people on my Instagram, social media, all upset because I posted the video of this sister from the Caribbean, goes by Royal G on Instagram, whining, and of course that's a phrase that is used in terms of a type of dance. Okay. Oh, I had people talking about, oh my God, she was looking like a prostitute, like a stripper, as if they've never actually visited any island countries. And so Michelle Hope, a sexologist out of New York, she, of course, was traveling in. She got here a little bit late, so we decided to go ahead and record our conversation. And so here's our discussion about all of the people who just are up in arms because I dared post such a video on my Instagram and social media pages. All right, folks, on Friday's show, we were supposed to talk to Michelle Hope, sexologist from New York City, and, of course, she's running a wee bit late. We were going to talk about this video that I reposted on Instagram, and I talked about it on Friday's show, but I said, you know what, I still want to talk about the video with Michelle because I'm just amazed at these people and their absolutely ridiculous reactions to the video, okay? So for those who didn't see the video, so I'm going to play it for you. So let me set it up, okay? So Shanae Hall, radio personality out of Atlanta. I know her well. I've known her for about 7 or 8 years. So she posted this video of this Caribbean sister dancing. So I saw the video, and I'm like, man, this sister's getting it in. But I like the song. And so I then said, tried to Shazam it, couldn't get the song. Any of my Caribbean followers, if y'all know it, let me know. I've done it before. Then these people lost their damn mind. So let me show you. So here's the video, y'all. Okay, nice jam. I like soca music. So, okay, so I put it out there on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. Oh, you know that's not what you were looking at. D.L. Hughley even posted, he said, I didn't realize that was music going on. That was all the different reactions. Then you had these holy rollers. Oh, you a married man. I can't believe you posted that. That's disrespectful to your wife. No married man should be posting that. I mean, they started all that sort of stuff. Now, let me be real clear. I don't give a damn, okay? I don't care what they think, okay? My stuff's straight in my household, so I don't really care what they think. But it's amazing, and I also said, Michelle, that clearly a bunch of y'all don't have any passports. Because if you go to Caribbean countries, that's nothing. That's nothing when you see folks dancing, Trinidad, Tobago, Barbados, St. Croix, St. Thomas, Bahamas, Jamaica. I mean, that's the culture to soca music.
Right, right. Well, I think what's really interesting, what if that had been a man that you had seen and had put that up? Then what would people say, right? And I think what that's rooted in is, one, not knowing your history, not knowing where these kinds of dances come from, and then two, the idea of rape culture. So for people to go immediately to, oh no, Roland, you're not looking at this for the music, you're hypersexualizing the individual in the video, and it doesn't sound to me like that's what you were doing. Although, let's be real, she had moves. She had moves. I thought about that. My hips, the arthritis in my hips started when she started dirty whining, right? And I think that what we have to do in this hypersensitive time of really looking at sex and sexuality and what it means is we kind of have to go a little bit more internal and ask ourselves, what is it in me that's coming up, and why am I continuing to predicate these ideas? Because that's what's happening. Oh, that's not holy. Wait a minute, so now a woman can't dance to a song because automatically we think about sex?
Well, and again, for me, that's also the problem in that, because first of all, as somebody who dances, I posted this video on Instagram. In fact, before I do that, though, it was interesting. So this sister here we go to my iPad. So this sister here, this is what she posted on my Instagram page. She said, for all the non-readers, he said, all caps, multiple times that he wanted the name of the song. Even still, even if he wasn't so, what if he posted this picture? You think his wife is going to jump down his throat over a repost? They've been married long enough not to have these insecurities. Y'all need a damn life. Somebody get rolling the name of the song. Okay, guess who replied?
Who?
my wife, J. Hood Martin. Hashtag say it again for the people in the back.
Right. I think that that's also, it's sexual politics. It's policing politics. They're trying to police what you and your wife do.
All what they're trying to say is also, you're public. You shouldn't be posting these things because, you know, you're a known person.
But see, again, that's them in their own minds hypersexualizing the video. It has nothing to do with you being public, you being married. It's policing. It's like public policing politics. How dare you tell me what I can post and how that's going to impact my relationship with my wife? You don't know what we do behind closed doors. Maybe your wife sent that to you like, babe, look at this. Who knows? And I think that that's a large part of some of the issues and breakdowns in communications we have in our community.
But then also I think that, look, if I had said, oh, man, look at this fine sister getting it in, okay, then you can say whatever you want to say. I still think you're crazy. Okay, the bottom line is I said, I want the song. And you know what happened? I had a sister, Olivia.Bajan, B-A-J-A-N. She responded to it. She said, the song is Turner by Kevin Little, Soca King. I was like, thanks a bunch. Immediately went and downloaded it and then posted a video of me dancing to the song. And I'm going. And I'm going, so, but the fact that we're so caught up in this thing that somehow because I'm public, that somehow, oh no, because I've even had people come up to me, you know, I'll be at Essence. Oh no, you really shouldn't be out here dancing, you know, because they're gonna post it on YouTube. And I go, you know, I'm already on YouTube dancing.
Right. You put yourself on YouTube dancing.
Okay, I was sitting here twerking the George Lopez golf tournament and put it on TV. And I'm going, why y'all tripping? I just think that we really do have folks who are repressed sexually.
Absolutely.
Who are so freaking out if you are a free spirit and you're not playing by their rules.
Yep. And again, that goes back to the policing. And it continues to perpetuate unhealthy narratives around sex and sexuality when this country has a long history of sexual exploitation of black and brown bodies, that we have been conditioned to believe that anytime we put something up, oh, you've hypersexualized somebody, oh, you've hypersexualized this situation, and that's not necessarily it. You gave directives, please get me this name of this song, can you help me? And the lady had moves. Additionally, that is very common culture in the islands.
And so check this out. So I got back from NAACP convention, and I was listening to this song in my kitchen. And so here we go to my iPad. So this video here got like 2 million views on Facebook, and so I was doing my alpha stroll, okay? So I had one of my African outfits on, and we were just sort of just getting it in. It's about 2 million plus views, okay? So let me go to another video, okay? Again, so people understand in terms of how I roll. So if I go to, there's another video that I posted, same thing, because, you know, I'm always dancing. You know this here.
Yes.
You know, I don't care. Look, I live by the hashtag live life love it. So this is another video here where Buddy Lewis and we were on a golf course in L.A. And I had my boombox going, and Chris Spencer said, I bet you wouldn't, he said, I bet you wouldn't put on Atomic Dog. All right. I said, okay, cool.
Yep.
And Buddy's an Omega. So guess what? We started sitting, we had a step off on the golf course. Now we waiting to tee off. Okay. And so the problem is Buddy gonna kick. But see, Buddy gonna do this half spin. He can't do 360. See, Buddy Lewis, see, you saw that half, he couldn't go all the way around. But so again, so we always do this. But I still think I think people need to get over themselves of this whole deal is as if you can't show multiple sides of who you are as an individual, even if you're public.
Yeah, I think that speaks to our lack of understanding around intersectionality. Intersectionality really speaks to our race, our culture, our class, where we were raised, the norms that came up in our family, and that all kind of implicates like who we are. We all have intersections, and in spaces where we are or have been oppressed, we sometimes, I think, take on those ideas and then we spew them back out onto our own people without taking a step back and saying, you know what, they're just having fun. Additionally, people are jealous. People, because of the way they were raised, because of the ideas that they carry with them, they don't see that they can have fun like you.
And you know what? I think, of one, you've hit it. I think because you got people who are sitting at home who are mad. Mm-hmm. And it's like, how dare you? How dare you be a free spirit? How dare you put a hashtag, live my life, love it? Wait. Way before Lil Duval did his song, Living My Best Life, that was my hashtag. Right. Because my deal is, I'm going to go out and dance. I'm going to go dance. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to have a good time. I don't care if you're watching, because you know what? I'm not going to go out and sit there and it's like, okay, somebody might be watching me. I mean, I had somebody tell me, they were like, yeah, you were at this club and you were dancing with this woman. I was kind of like, yeah, I was. I'm like, do you actually think I ain't going to dance with anybody? Matter of fact, I will dance with other women at a party my wife at. Because she ain't going to dance all night. She like, look, I'm going to go sit down, but I'll dance 3-4 straight hours. But I just think that so many people out there who also have some jacked up relationships. Yep. Okay. My husband would never do that. Sounds to me like y'all got issues.
Probably. Because why do you think if your partner goes and dances with somebody or reposts something that your relationship is over? It says to me that you're not secure in your relationship. And let's be real. We are people of color. We have been oppressed throughout history. And dance and singing and enjoying life has been a way for us to get through some of the hardest times. So I'm not quite sure why we are coming down on each other in a space where we feel alive, we feel full of joy. And if that is Dutzy whining, or if that is Omega stepping or Alpha stepping, then live your best life.
That's all you gotta do?
Absolutely.
Oh, but you forgot, I thought you were gonna end it how you normally end it.
What? Oh. Q-No, let your freak flag fly. Come on, baby.
Y'all, I don't know. She just totally forgot. Tell folks how they can reach you.
All right, you guys can follow me at MHSexpert across all platforms, and keep an eye out for me. I got a few more things coming your way down the pipeline.
All right, Michelle, always good to see you.
Always great. Thank you.
Oh, you gotta love messing with people, Avis.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm like, just, live a little. Travel. See the world. That's us. That's who we are.
I say it all the time, Roland. First and foremost, people, in the words of Kid Cudi, stop trying to be God. That's not who you are. But more importantly, the thing is that if they think your IG is out of control, I'm so glad they aren't following me in my Snapchat.
Oh.
Michael.
I was born.
I don't think I want to follow your Snapchat.
Listen, hold on, listen. I was reborn and raised in the words of the weekend. So, it is what it is.
How many damn artists you gonna mention in today's show?
He's dropping them all. Go
ahead, Michael.
In this world, Roland, I mean, what are we gonna say? Social media is just playing such an impact on how we live our lives, people's opinions on how we live our lives. And I think what you and the sexpert said was exactly right. You can't give a damn. You got to live your life the way you need to live it for you and your family and your community.
And that's why tomorrow, guess who's going to be on the show? The dancer, Royal G. Oh. So she's going to be on the show tomorrow. She hit her on the DM. She said, this is what she said. Really? She said, thank you. She said, thank you. No. I don't know her. I don't know her.
If you thought you were getting comments before, wait till you get these new ones.
First of all y'all calm the hell down. What she said was, she said, thank you for defending our culture. And that's the thing. And so I've had some people already on Periscope, oh, I don't like this topic. Well, get the hell over it. Every topic ain't for you. But there are people who are learning. Because, look, let's just be honest. There are a lot of us who don't travel to these countries. We don't understand. I had a sister who was telling me, oh, my God, she's looking like a stripper. And I'm going, but that's the culture. Again, America's puritanical views have also been placed upon us as African Americans. And so we need to learn about our own people who are in other countries and learn about those cultures and not say, here are our values we're putting on you. So tomorrow, it's time to go to class. And maybe some of y'all will learn how to wind up. Folks, you can all support us at Roland Martin Unfiltered by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, joining our fan club, Bring the Funk fan club. We certainly hope you would do that. We have lots of folks who have been signing up for that. We want you to contribute to us to make this all possible. And again, like I say, we're traveling all around the country, focused on what's happening when it comes to this election. We were bringing you the stories a lot of people are ignoring left and right. And so we want to be able to continue to do that. So please go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Second, we want you to go to Facebook. Click live notifications. Same thing on Twitter, Periscope, and YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. So every time we go live, then you'll get a notification and know exactly that we're live. If you're not getting your live notifications, send me an email to Roland@RolandMartinUnfiltered.com so we know that, because we're hearing that some of y'all are not getting the word when we go live. I don't know what these social media folks are doing, but I plan on busting them. So please do that. Folks, I will see you tomorrow right here from Los Angeles. You know what? I might do the show from outside, give you a view of the Hollywood Hills. That's tomorrow right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered. Don't forget the restream, 10 p.m., midnight, 2 a.m., 4 a.m., 6 a.m., 10 a.m., 8 a.m., 10 a.m. We restream the show multiple times. And just in case somebody missed it, tell them to also go to VOD and go to Facebook, Periscope, YouTube to check it out. And lastly, download our podcast, okay? You can watch the show on the go or listen to it, audio and video podcast from the Google Play Store as well as from iTunes. All right, I got to go. Go holler at my man, Ali Sadiq. Y'all take care.